What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the week 3 edition of the late night live stream. I am Ben Hover, joined by Joey Carrion. Today, we're going to go position by position, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, talk about the cash plays, talk about the tournament plays, try and figure out how we can bank big time in week 3. Joey, how are you doing? Interesting slate this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a fun slate. Everybody in the chat, let me know if my mic sounds okay. You said, how am I doing? I've been dealing with a lot of PC issues today, and I thought my computer was like dunzo, just because I tried to install some drivers and some graphic card updates, and everything just went to shit. But it looks, I think we're good now. But nonetheless, a fun slate tomorrow. We got a lot of good teams. We got a lot of good games, a lot of good stacks, and a lot of money to potentially be, coming into our bank accounts tomorrow.
Yeah, no, for sure. Hopefully we can get you a nice tournament win so you can bank, buy a new PC. You don't have to go to Price Right for this next one. You don't have to go to the Radio Shack, discount from all of the closed stores. We'll be able to get you a nice real PC after tomorrow.
Yeah, coming from the guy whose PC sounds like it was built in 1900.
Bro, it's loud because it's powerful. Chill on me. Let's talk some DFS, Draftkings week 3, Joey. Let's start off. We can get the screen up here. Talk about the quarterback position. And for cash games, Joey, I mean, it's pretty simple this week. I think we have a 2-player pool when it comes to cash.
Yeah, I mean, so for cash games specifically, I think it's Josh Allen at 8,200 is one of the standout plays on the slate. Not much needs to be said about Josh Allen, so not going to waste everybody's time talking about how good he is. But this is just a great game environment, in my opinion, right? You have the Bills who have a ton of injuries in the back end, which definitely bodes well for the Dolphins side of things. This game has a 53 live total, which is the highest on the slate. So Josh Allen at 8,200, definitely a standout play for sure. I think the next cash game option that people are going to gravitate towards is Jalen Hurts at 7,600. And I think if you are playing cash, these are the two guys that you're really going to be targeting, in my opinion. This game has a 47.5 implied team total. Jalen Hurts, as you can see here, 28 total rushing attempts through 2 weeks, 140 plus yards on the ground and 3 rushing touchdowns. That floor is just insanely good for cash games on DraftKings. So 7,600 Jalen Hurts. I think it's one of those two in cash. And personally, I lean Hurts for the 600 in savings.
Yeah. Do you think that Allen's objectively a better play? Like if we have some salary open up, which it looks like we could potentially with some value plays, which we'll get to at the other positions, I think that I would want to prioritize getting Allen in over Hurts, but I don't know how you feel about it at this point in the week.
Obviously, Josh Allen is a better play than Jalen Hurts, right? The ceiling is a little bit higher. The floor is a little bit higher just with how the Bills operate on offense, and 95% of the Bills' touchdowns are going to go through Josh Allen. But when you take into account the context of the slate and the 600 in savings that you are getting from Jalen Hurts to Josh Allen, I think it makes a difference. I think that whether that be, getting up to Miles Sanders from Dameon Pierce as your RB2 or something along those lines, or even at wide receiver, getting up from a specific wide receiver to another wide receiver in a different tier, Jalen Hurts just makes a ton of sense, and you're not sacrificing that much. Like, Josh Allen is not a priority over Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, at least. But obviously, if money wasn't an issue, Josh Allen is a better play. I mean,
yeah, Eric's playing Hurts and cash. Bob asks, what's the distinction between cash and tourney? So cash games are anything that you have like roughly a 50% chance of winning. So that would be like a 50-50 or a double up where, 45% of the field is doubling their money, head to heads, etc., stuff like that. Whereas tournaments are the more top heavy, larger field types of things. So, in terms of like how you're bringing that into your construction, cash games, you only got to beat half the field. So floor matters a lot more. Whereas tournaments, so much of the money is, at the top of the prize pool that you got to shoot for first. So you're willing to embrace more fragility. You're willing to be more risky in terms of prioritizing ceiling over floor.
Yeah, I mean, in cash games, it's really you're just playing the best plays on the slate, price and salary, or price included, and then the context of the slate included is what you're doing in cash games in those contests that Ben described. In tournaments, all the money's at first, so you're shooting for first or worst, in my opinion, and that's how you should be building your tournament lineup. So contests like the Millie Maker, Eric said, what stack is going to win the Millie this week? It's probably one of these top stacks like the Chiefs or the Bills, if I had to guess. Hey guys, appreciate what y'all do. I guess 2 questions. Receiver seems to be where it's at to target. Who's your favorites? Second, any under-owned plays y'all loving?
We'll definitely get to the wide receiver question as we, progress through this. Steph Diggs is a clear standout play on this slate. I think he's the best wide receiver play on the board. In terms of under-owned plays, yeah, I mean, there's definitely some, but again, I don't want to get too far ahead of things. Got to keep the show a little bit structured. We'll be shouting out our high or our low-owned tournament shots throughout the course of this stream, of which I personally have several, especially at wide receiver. But let's stick with quarterback for a minute. Outside of Allen and Hurts, where are you interested in going for tournaments?
Yeah, I think the spot that kind of interests me the most, and I just referenced it, is this Chiefs game. I mean, you have Patrick Mahomes at 7,900. He's not projecting as good as Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen as it currently stands. This is still a game that has a 50.5 implied team total, although it has been bet down 1.5 points. The Chiefs have a 28 implied team total. We know what players to play with Patrick Mahomes. We know we're going to play Travis Kelce. We know we're going to play Juju Smith-Schuster or MVS. McCole Hardman, is he going to play? I know he was dealing with an injury. I'm not too sure if he's going to play or not, but if he is, he could be a cheap option to target. And you're just getting the best quarterback in the NFL at what? 3%? 4%?
Yeah, it seems like Mecole's going to play, and B, Patrick Mahomes at this ownership is a clear-cut smash. I mean, this dude's had 10 days to basically prepare to massacre an undermanned Indianapolis team. The Chiefs have put up an average of 30.5 points per game in weeks following a 10-day rest off of Thursday Night Football. So, yeah, I think Mahomes is a clear-cut smash in this spot. It's just auto. Anytime we get the chance to play the Chiefs and the field is galaxy braining it and finding reasons not to, that's when you absolutely hop on the Chiefs stack. I love Mahomes stuff this week.
Yeah, and it's just obviously a lot of people are using projections and making their lineups based off that. And like I said, he's just not going to project as well as Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts as it stands. So I think a lot of people are going to come off that. But, you said some stats on the podcast about like Patrick Mahomes and what he does after an extended break. And what is he like? He averages like 30 plus DraftKings points, and the Chiefs usually win and put up a ton of real life points coming off extended breaks. And in Indianapolis, we're not scared of the Colts defense by any stretch. Darius Leonard, Shaquille Leonard, whatever you want to call him, is also out for this game. So that should, help the middle of the field guys for sure. And if you're getting Patrick Mahomes in a dome with some elite weapons, like I don't know what else to tell everybody. I wouldn't be surprised if Mahomes Kelce stack wins the Millie Maker.
Yeah, love it. And Michael Pittman is a bring back sitting around, somewhere under 10% ownership at 6,900 is a super solid play as well. Last week, Joey said Ravens Dolphins could low key be a barn burner. What do you think this week for a low key barn burner of the week? I mean, first of all, miscrediting Joey there. That was definitely my call, but that's fine.
No, it wasn't. But
What was it? Wasn't it though?
go back on the stream. I mean, used like the players. I said the game in general.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I was
That's
talking about the game, the overall game.
the
But
game.
Bob
Oh
wouldn't lie, so I trust Bob. I mean,
no,
it was definitely me.
Bob's a straight shooter. Never trolls. None of that silly
But
business. But what game do you think maybe the total's just way too low?
honestly,
I have an answer for this if you don't.
yeah, let's hear your answer for this week because I really don't have one.
I think that
Or I have a
right.
game, but we'll see if we're on the same page.
I mean, I think it's Cincinnati and New York at 44.5, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think that this is like the clearest cut of bounce back spots for Joe Burrow in the passing game for the Bengals. You know, Higgins sets up super well. Jamar Chase, I talked about on the YouTube video. You can find it on this channel. I think is one of the most elite tournament plays you can make this week. I fully expect the Bengals to bounce back in this spot. But I mean, Joe Flacco's been doing his thing, and you know, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore set up well here. I think that they could match and pressure the Bengals here, and I just think that this game could easily go over 44.5. I mean, this could be, you know, a 50 total game easily.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And Eric said Bengals, Jets, and Seahawks, Falcons. I think the Seahawks Falcons one could be like that low key one that no one is expecting to go over. That's the game that I actually was going to say if I had to pick one.
Seahawks Falcons. So I mean, if you're a little bit higher on that game, J Mac in the chat asks your thoughts on Mariota as a cash game play. How do you feel about, you know, trying to save that salary, going down a little bit, 5,500 for Marcus Mariota? You know, the potential rushing should at least be there, averaging 9 attempts per game through 2 weeks. Marcus Mariota this week. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's projecting pretty well. Like he's projecting as like a top 3 option on the slate just in terms of value, and you are getting a nice floor out of him. Just hard to like realize what his ceiling is on any specific week. And obviously this is still one of the worst teams in the NFL with one of just the worst like schemes, and like we just question what the Falcons are doing on a weekly basis just in terms of their game plans and whatnot and how they utilize their weapons. And I don't know. I think you can play him in cash. I personally wouldn't, because I love the upside of Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen way too much.
Mm-hmm.
But he could definitely, you know, allow you to get another like high priced wide receiver in for sure. But I don't necessarily love it just because this Falcons offense could fall flat right in front of your face at any given moment. You know,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I personally wouldn't do it either. The Falcons have a full touchdown lower implied team total than the Eagles. You know, 9 points lower than the Bills. So I don't know. I just think you're giving up a lot in terms of both the player projection, you know, the raw projection, and even more so in the potential for this game environment to just be absolutely atrocious. Whereas, I mean, I think the Bills Dolphins game has like nuclear shootout written all over it, and Jalen Hurts is, you know, game script, game environment independent. He's just so safe. So
yeah. And it's also like, obviously, if I had to pick a game that could potentially like have a lot of scoring, it'd be this game. But we also know, like, when you're just betting on 2 bad teams and 2 bad quarterbacks, the realistic outcome is probably a bad game.
yeah.
So you can't really talk yourself into playing bad players on bad teams just because they're playing a bad defense.
Correct.
Which is something that we've done, or I've done a ton, and it never works out. Just because in terms of ranges of outcomes, like it's more likely than not that this game just showcases how bad these two teams are.
Yeah, which is a great reason why I'll be off of a lot of the chalk in the Houston and Chicago game, which we'll get to at running back and wide receiver. But yeah, so in terms of something we talked about earlier in the week, we talked about cutting the player pool short this week and really keeping our interest congested on a couple of key players. So, I mean, how many quarterbacks do you see yourself playing this week? Personally, there's only 5 guys that I'll be rolling out. I think I'm cutting out a large portion of the player pool and just really focusing in on certain players.
Yeah, I really have no interest in, a lot of these cheap guys. I think my favorite would definitely be Tua, just because we know who to stack with Tua. And like I referenced, the Bills have a ton of injuries. They just put Micah Hyde on IR. Jordan Poyer is out. Dane Jackson, who's like their cornerback 1, is also out. Tre'Davious White's still on IR, I believe, because you have to be on IR for 4
Yep.
games. So Tua at 6,100 and the highest game total of the slate, and he's projecting for under 10% ownership. Definitely love him. And then I would just include like Joe Burrow personally, Jalen Hurts, Mahomes, Josh Allen, then maybe like a sprinkle of Lamar here. But I won't. I probably won't play him when I'm building, just because like I'm not playing him against my team. So
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy because the 5 guys you just named are the 5 that I'm planning to roll. It's Allen, it's Mahomes, it's Hurts, it's Burrow, and it's Tua. Tua is the lowest I would go. I'm not going to try and trick myself into any of this like Jared Goff, Derek Carr, Trevor Lawrence stuff. Kirk Cousins is projecting well. He's going to be popular, but to me, he's just priced too highly. And I think that you can get your access to Kirk Cousins just through the pass catchers, right? Like I'll play Jefferson, Thielen, Cook, and Irv. I don't feel the need to play Kirk Cousins when Jalen Hurts' ceiling is so much higher for only 900 more. And to your point, I absolutely love Tua this week. I mean, is he going to do exactly what he did last week, where he sets up a historic game for his 2 wide receivers to have the best like tandem game of 2 receivers ever? No, probably not. But just because of the way that these 2 teams are going to be aggressive with each other, they have explosive playmakers, going to see a lot of pass attempts, and all of the injuries on this Bills secondary. I mean, they have the best safety duo in the NFL when healthy, and both guys are going to be out. Like this just sets up so well for Tua this week. And yeah, I don't think Bop is talking about this stack, but I think this Tua stuff gets steamed. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, it's definitely possible for sure. I think that if a lot of people tout it enough, it will definitely get higher owned than what the projections are saying right now. Especially Tua, he's already like the projected to be the 4th highest owned quarterback. I could see him definitely being top 3 when it's all said and done. But yeah, other than that, I wouldn't really go lower. Jared Goff is whatever. Bot brought up Stafford to Cup. I don't mind Stafford, but it's just, I don't know. It's just hard.
I would just rather play Cup. Like, why do you have to play Stafford in that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think any of the other plays that you would be like double stacking Stafford with are overtly strong this week.
Yeah. Because realistically, you have him competing against the top end quarterbacks that have, higher floors, higher ceilings. They're in better game environments. And you need Stafford to throw 350 and 4
pretty much
for you to win a tournament. So
Arizona's D is
I don't love Stafford. I don't love Stafford this week, but I mean, these quarterbacks are interesting, I think. I mean, Joe Burrow, I definitely have interest in, just because we know where the ball is going, and I kind of want to bet on teams that, have condensed target shares like Cincinnati. But it's definitely hard for these guys to compete with like Jalen Hurts and Mahomes for, 1,400 less.
Yep. And you mentioned you're not going to play Lamar because he's going up against your New England Patriots. I'm not going to play Lamar just because I'm not 150ing. Like I'm only going to play so many lineups. And I just think that he's the least likely of the top guys to go nuclear just based off game environment. I think that I prefer Allen, I prefer Hurts, and I prefer Mahomes just strictly this week. Can't play everybody. If I were 150ing, I'd definitely have Lamar exposure, but I am not.
Yeah. But other than that, I think that's about it. My favorite low-owned quarterback this week is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
going out on a real limb there with the best quarterback.
If you're getting him as a lower-owned quarterback than Matt Ryan and Marcus Mariota and Derek Carr and Joe Burrow and Tua, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh God, I can't wait to jam Mahomes and see that little ownership number come up to his name around 3%, 4% tomorrow. It's going to be looking mint, absolute mint. Running back this week, it's pretty goddamn ugly. It's ugly, especially for cash. I don't know. Like, there's maybe 5 guys that I consider cash game viable this week, and even those guys, I'm not super convinced that I'm down on. But Leonard Fournette is the play this week. He's going to be the chalkiest running back on the slate at 6,500 at home against Green Bay. We know all of the issues that Tampa's dealing with offensively. Mike Evans suspended in this game. Chris Godwin is not going to play. Julio Jones questionable. So there's a realistic scenario where this team is rolling out Brashad Perryman, Russell Gage, and Scotty Miller as their 3-wide set, and just absolutely depending on Leonard Fournette, whose role has been absolutely elite. And 6,500, I think that he's the best cash game play on the board.
Yeah, this is a tough week for running back in cash games specifically, when Leonard Fournette is, the player that's projecting the best. And, this Bucs offense just hasn't looked great. Obviously, they're 2-0 and, they've won both games by 10 plus, but they haven't been great. They haven't been scoring a ton of touchdowns like how we're accustomed to. Leonard Fournette is top 4 in the league in touches and, snap share out of every single running back. So he is going to be out there, 6,500. He is a salary saver in my opinion, and we know he plays well in the passing game. So I think in cash, you just have to lock in Leonard Fournette. You're getting 20 plus touches if he stays healthy. I'm a notorious Fournette doubter. Hey, that's cap. That's cap.
I mean, it's actually crazy. Like, if you know Joey's true full history, he was on Fournette and then gave up right before he got on the Bucs. So that's just,
Yeah. No, you're right. But yeah, I mean, it's just even year Lenny. He doesn't work out.
So. And he hasn't been efficient, which is why I think that he is. You lock him in cash, because he's going to be super high owned, and he sets up well from a workload perspective. But in tournaments, clear cut fade. Like, I wouldn't touch Leonard Fournette in a single GPP lineup. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, no, I'm playing 0 Leonard Fournette in tournaments. I think that the running backs above Leonard Fournette are just better. And they mentioned in the chat DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is a great tournament play this week. But for cash games, somebody also mentioned David Montgomery at 5,900. David Montgomery is also top of the league in terms of running back opportunity. He's top 8 in the NFL in touches, has a 20+% target share, albeit only 6 targets because the Bears just don't throw the ball. But he is utilized in both the receiving game and the rushing game, and he leads the NFL in broken tackles. So he has been solid to start the season. Maybe it's because of, this 8.1 average, 122-yard game against Green Bay, but it's a plus spot at home against Houston. 5,900. You're getting opportunity out of David Montgomery, which is all that matters in cash, in my opinion.
Hang on, we have a really important question. I can tell it's important because it's in all caps. Yo, do I drop Ravens D or keep them? Could get Rams, Packers, or stream one each week. What do y'all think, Joey? What do you think? Does he drop Ravens D against the New England Patriots?
No. I mean, the Patriots have nobody on offense.
Yeah, I think that. I prefer Rams this week. I would rank it Rams, Ravens, Packers.
I prefer Packers 100%.
Really?
But yeah, the Bucs have legit nobody.
Yeah, but they're going to be on the road facing a team that's basically like a run first team at this point. So I think the Rams.
The Patriots are at home a run first team, so you could say the same thing for the Ravens.
Which is why the Rams are the best play. You're going to get. Kyler's just naturally going to play himself into some sacks.
That is true.
I think Rams are definitely the play here. Which one of them has long-term upside the most? It doesn't matter, bro. It's defense. You just plug and play a different one every single week. The position long-term. What is long-term? You just play it every single week.
Yeah, no, you stream defense every week.
Philly defense, most plus EV rest of the year. I don't know. I'll take that. Drop them all and get Philly if you can. That's what Al says.
Yeah, but other than David Montgomery and Leonard Fournette, I'm really not considering anybody else in terms of cash games this week. I mean, Miles Sanders is interesting. His role is pretty much 15 to 20 touches, a couple catches a game, and very low touchdown upside. And then you obviously have the Eagles just are in a four-way committee with Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, Gainwell, and Boston Scott. All of them are going to see some opportunity. So I don't mind Sanders, but he's definitely a cut below David Montgomery. And then I think the cheapest you go is probably Dameon Pierce at 5K. Then I think I also have to mention Josh Jacobs at 5,400. Looks like he is going to play. Why else would he fly out if he's not going to be active and ready for this game? And you're going to get 15 to 20 touches out of Josh Jacobs at 5,400, and he's projecting, pretty okay right now as it stands. So I think that these are going to be the highest owned running backs on the slate, and I'll fade all of them because I don't care.
Yeah, no, this is a clear-cut week to get away from the running back chalk. Also, you have to think about it contextually. Like, we disagreed on this last week where I think that, I was still willing to eat some Saquon Barkley chalk in lineups that were contrarian enough because I think that Barkley does have the type of ceiling like we saw in week 1 that he can kill you. So if a player is chalky, but their ceiling is still enticing, which we'll talk about with Stephon Diggs, I'm not full fading them just because of the ownership. But with Fournette and David Montgomery specifically in these two games, I just don't see either of them having the upside to kill you. So they're clear-cut fades. I wouldn't play Sanders in tournaments. I wouldn't play Pierce in tournaments, even though they are sort of the second-tier cash consideration guys. I agree with Joey. I think Fournette and David Montgomery are the best options that you can play in cash. But do you think that David Montgomery is significantly better than Dameon Pierce? That's the question. I think Houston's super live to just outright win this game. Chicago's looked like the worst offense in the league. And yeah, David Montgomery is the consistent guy, never a sexy play. He's probably going to get there, but I don't know. I think Dameon Pierce for 900 less, you're getting very similar plays, I think. And if Houston ends up being in the positive game script, I feel like he's the one you would rather have for a cheaper price tag.
Yeah, but I mean, if Houston is in a positive game script, that means the Bears are in a negative game script, which means more targets for David Montgomery, and you're just not getting any pass catching upside out of Dameon Pierce in that scenario. So I still prefer David Montgomery even for 900 more. I think.
I mean, you say that, but could I just push back quickly that David Montgomery, they were down last week too, and he had 2 targets.
Yeah. But he's going to see more targets than Dameon Pierce, no matter what.
Agreed.
So you're getting, a higher target floor, albeit even if it's only a couple targets. You're getting, I think, more opportunity from David Montgomery, but it is close. I mean, Dameon Pierce should see 15 touches.
I think he does.
He should, in theory. But we'll have to see what the Texans do with him and Rex Burkhead. But yeah, that's definitely a game where the Texans can come out and control the clock and get up and let Dameon Pierce eat. And he's only 5K, but just not a sexy play. I don't think a lot of people are going to go there in cash. I think that the cash game running backs are Leonard Fournette and David Montgomery, and that is disgusting. And I'm fading all of these running backs in tournaments like I've 100% full faded Saquon last week, just because when you think about it, there are still tons of ways, even if they're high ceiling plays, like especially with Saquon, there are still tons of ways that he could fail, and one of them is just being in terrible offenses.
Right. Absolutely.
David Montgomery.
Yeah. Matt says no Gibson love. In cash, probably not, but in tournaments, I think that he's one of many plays that I think is viable because, all you got to do is play guys in these price ranges that David Montgomery and Fournette are in, and you're going to get like decent ownership discounts. So yeah, Gibson's great. He's got, basically like David Montgomery role plus, like he's going to get just a few more targets. averaging 6 targets per game through the first two. Philly should push easily in this spot and force them into more pass game scenarios. What do you think about Antonio Gibson at 6,400?
I don't. He said, "Read my comments, bro. We're reading them.
Y'all don't think I should keep
Don't
Rams,
keep
Ravens,
three
Packers all
defenses."
seasons? No, dog. You need one defense and drop the rest, please.
What a troll. But anyways, Antonio Gibson is okay. I think that they priced him up a little bit, after a dud in my opinion last week, and that doesn't make too much sense. And salary included, context of the slate included, I don't think he's that great of a play. I'd rather just find the money to get up to DeAndre Swift at 7,200. Honestly, I may prefer CEH at 6,300 straight
I
up
like Clyde.
for tournaments. So I don't mind him. I'm probably not going to play much Antonio Gibson this week, as 6.5 point home dogs with a 20 implied team total. But he could definitely get there if he still has that pass game role that he had in week 1. Didn't necessarily have it in week 2, so it's going to be interesting to see about that. But yeah, in cash, I mean, just to sum it up for everybody still watching, Fournette, David Montgomery is who you're probably playing. But in tournaments, all of these other running backs are live. They're so live.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that? I mean, how do you feel about Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon? Because they're the two that are going to have the most ownership. I think both of them sit around 15%, and everybody else gets pretty much overshadowed. Um, I mean, are you going to be playing these guys into ownership? I don't think that 20% with these guys is like too crazy. I feel comfortable playing both of them. And I think both spots are good enough, especially Dalvin Cook as, pretty sizable favorites at home, perfect bounce back spot against a terrible Detroit defense. He hasn't really done much to start the year, and this feels like it could be an absolute Dalvin Cook eruption spot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely like Delvin, and he's projecting to be, top 6, top 7 owned running back on the slate, but he shouldn't get too out of hand in terms of his ownership when you have guys like, Fournette, D-Mont, Josh Jacobs all projecting for higher ownership than Delvin Cook as it stands right now. And, just with playing Delvin Cook, it inherently just flips the build, which is kind of a tournament strategy that we touched on the podcast. And if you're not subscribed to the podcast feed, make sure you do that. The link is in the description, and make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel as well. We're like 14 or 13 subs away from 450. So get us to 450 if you're watching.
Please
Helps
help
us
us
out
out.
a ton. But yeah, nonetheless, playing Delvin Cook, even if he's 15% owned in tournaments, I think is still good, just because it gives you leverage on the field in terms of how you're constructing your rosters, because everybody is going to construct their rosters by playing the high priced wide receivers instead of the high priced running backs. So you're getting leverage there. You're getting a high upside running back in Dalvin Cook that we know in his range, he has 40 spots. And
Easily.
at home against this Lions defense that is just pretty abysmal, in my opinion, in a 52.5 totaled game. They're 6.5 point favorites. I mean, this is just a nut spot for Delvin Cook. Let's see if it materializes, though.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I think Joe Mixon, for similar reasons, is in a good spot, but it's just been tricky with him and the way the Bengals offense has been sputtering. But again, I like Joe Mixon a decent bit. How do you feel about the top tier though? Like Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey. I feel like CMC is a little bit better. I think his role is still really good. A lot of the problems with CMC hasn't been the role. It's just been that the Panthers are playing slow as dirt and they're not getting enough plays off. They're just so far below the average for plays ran on a weekly basis. But if they just are able to fire off more plays in this spot, which maybe they are, maybe they aren't, I think McCaffrey sets up really well at 8,800 and virtually no ownership. Once again, going to be sub 10%, close to 5%, maybe. I don't know. I think CMC is a standout play from a tournament perspective this week.
Yeah, I think that personally it's hard to get there. Just when you're comparing him to those high priced wide receivers. Like, I'd much rather play Justin Jefferson,
Right.
Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams. I just think that his role is obviously solid. It's good. and he's going to get you 15 plus. Like 15 points is CMC's floor.
Right.
And we just haven't seen the ceiling. I think that this game is pretty horrible. I think that the Panthers' offense is pretty horrible. Matt Rule is probably going to get fired relatively soon here. The Panthers have a 19.5 implied team total. We haven't seen CMC have those high target, high catch games. This dude Baker Mayfield never checks the ball down. Never, ever, for some reason. CMC could be standing right in front of his face and Baker Mayfield will just take off running.
Right.
So at 8,800, I hate being like this, but it's kind of I want to see it first. Even though, you should be playing into the uncertainty. That's how you win tournaments, is by playing into the uncertainty and by being against people who think like me, oh, I want to see it before I bet on it.
Right.
That's how you win the money.
In tournaments, absolutely.
But with CMC, yeah, I'm just not playing them. So there's that.
Yeah, no, and like, let me again say that. So if I'm building 10 lineups, I can double the field on Christian McCaffrey or 3x the field on McCaffrey by playing him in 2 lineups. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of thing. I don't think you need to go hard on McCaffrey. I agree. I'd rather play Adams, Chase, and Jefferson over Christian McCaffrey straight up, and I'll be more exposed to those players. But I think that, Al says, if we're playing Mahomes and Kelsey, no way we're playing McCaffrey. Yeah, that's definitely true. It would be like in a, cheaper stack, like a Burrow stack or, a Tua stack, Jared Goff stack. Maybe you're, you have the absolute nuts and you're playing Chase Daniel, but who knows?
I mean,
that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, CMC is going to be under 10% owned for sure. Is there any other, low owned tournament running backs that you like for this week that the field is just not playing?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. You mentioned it briefly, and the chat has been talking about it. Matt said Swift is the best running back play on the slate. I talked about it in my top 5 tournament plays video. DeAndre Swift is my favorite GPP play on the slate. He's going to come in under 5% owned. Minnesota-Detroit game currently at second place, 52.5 point team total. And Swift has arguably been the most explosive running back in the league through 2 weeks. It's like either him or it's Nick Chubb. And he's flying completely under the radar from a slate perspective, despite this game being desirable. The Lions have scored 35 points and 36 points and get a weak Minnesota defense indoors. I think Swift is phenomenal. He scored almost 17 points last week on 7 touches. If he's closer to fully healthy, which, he should be closer to fully healthy, I don't know if we're talking about another, 15 to 18 touch spot out of Swift in this matchup. I think that he's a phenomenal play. And he's also leverage off of Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's going to be one of the chalkiest plays on the slate. They're the same exact price. I don't think it gets much better than plugging a player like DeAndre Swift into your lineup this week.
Yeah, I mean, DeAndre Swift at, 3% or Amon-Ra St. Brown at 20+%.
It's a decision that makes itself in tournaments, especially when you consider how weak the running back pool is and how strong the wide receiver pool is. That's just clear cut.
And it's just from a real life perspective, can't you see Amon-Ra St. Brown busting after he came out talking shit about De'Ami Brown and everybody was at his neck?
What do you say about De'Ami?
Well, did you see the press conference where he was like, "Oh yeah, I was looking for De'Ami Brown. I didn't see him on the field. What did he do? He was just being arrogant, which I respect. Coming from me, I respect it. I respect the shit talk, but it's now he's gonna bust.
Amon-Ra's he's just a vengeful dude. I don't know if you saw the video from a while ago when he was just rattling off the name of every wide receiver who was drafted ahead of him. He's salty about it. He's got a what is it, a chip on his shoulder? Fucking good for him. I like that. But yes, I mean, DFS wise, Swift is an elite pivot. Eric asks, so you wouldn't play ASB in tournaments? I totally would. I would just look to get different. I mean, he's a good play.
I'm playing St. Brown.
Yeah.
I think things could get opened up if James Conner doesn't play, and it, as you can see here, he's likely a game time decision. So people might late swap to a Darrell Williams or an Eno Benjamin. So that's definitely something to monitor. It looks like Kamara is going to play. He is listed as questionable, but I think he's more on the probable side of questionable. But I don't have any interest in any
Mm-mm.
Saints players this week besides maybe Chris Olave, who is still cheap. But other than that, in terms of running backs, yeah, there's not much that I personally love at running back this week. I'm just going to play a lot of 2 running back builds. And, I think we're just seeing the trend where it's like in tournaments, you want to spend as cheap as you possibly can without sacrificing too much,
Yeah.
especially if you're trying to bank like large field tournaments, which I say every week. A lot of the people that watch us and listen to us are probably playing in those tournaments. You're probably going to want to pay down a little bit, but still get that ceiling and that upside. So don't sacrifice too much, but you don't have to prioritize the running back position, especially this day and age, because these motherfuckers don't score points anymore.
Totally agree. Did they draft De'Ami Brown ahead of him?
Washington did, yeah.
3rd round pick. Amon-Ra was a 4th. Dale in the chat has a season-long question. Full point PPR, James Robinson, AJ Green, or Christian Kirk? Christian Kirk pretty easily for me.
Yeah, I mean, James Robinson, AJ Green, you could drop AJ Green.
Yeah,
Robinson.
Drop AJ Green. James Robinson's okay, but Christian Kirk is a smash.
Yeah, Christian Kirk is a smash every single week. So,
yep, absolutely. Mac Jones 3 touchdowns this week, calling it now. I know that tickles your fancy, Joey.
Yeah, I don't even think I'm gonna watch the game, but DeAndre Swift and Derrick Henry tournament plays at running back.
Yep. Can we finish off running back with, maybe some cheap pivots? Like, how cheap are you willing to go this week? Like we talked about, Rashad Penny as a potential play that we could make. Do you still have interest in that? Naheem Hines, and what could set up to be the perfect game script for him in that game at 5K? Any interest in any of these guys?
Yeah, the one player, and I'm glad that you brought this up because we would have skipped over him, that we both like is Rashad Penny.
Yeah, I like Penny.
At 4,900. If I had to say a player that's going to be in the milli-making winning lineup, just a total long shot, it's Rashad Penny. You're fitting into the trend of paying down at running back. You could potentially get, that lower total game that goes nuclear just because of how bad the defenses are, even though we already touched on that. I think he is still ahead of Kenneth Walker, and Kenneth Walker is priced ahead of Rashad Penny. Walker's 5K, Penny is 4,900, as we could see. And we just know that Rashad Penny does have slate breaking upside.
Absolutely.
We haven't seen it, so it's kind of going back into the whole Christian McCaffrey debate. But at 4,900, like in a large field tournament, 200 plus thousand entries, give me Rashad Penny as the tournament winning running back this week. And now he's going to score 7 points.
Yeah, it's super low floor, but would it be crazy if Penny was like the best, highest scoring running back under 6K this week? That wouldn't shock me at all. It truly wouldn't. And you're going to get him at under 5%. So yeah. And Kenneth Walker played 25% of snaps last week. I know he's still working his way back, but I don't think he goes from 25% to fucking 75% this week. He's not going to play more snaps than Penny. So you could just lock that in right now for Penny to leave this backfield.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the projections right now. They have Penny with a similar ceiling to guys like Damian Harris, Damian Pierce, CEH, James Robinson, AJ Dillon, Cordero Patterson, Darrell Henderson, Chase Edmonds. He's higher than all of those guys in terms of the ceiling department. He's projecting okay. His ownership is going to be non-existent. Home favored. I think they're favored. Are they?
Seattle is favored by 3.5.
So you get a home favored running back, and we know he has slate breaking upside. We just haven't seen it yet. Maybe this is the game where they give him 20 touches and he gives you 20 plus.
Yep. Eric says Penny only needs 15 carries to hit big for sure.
Yep. Rashad
for sure.
Penny it is.
All right.
Let's lock him in every lineup.
Well, not every lineup. Not but some. Let's get out of this godforsaken running back position and talk about everybody's favorite. Let's talk about the fun position this week, which is wide receiver. And the top of wide receiver is absolutely loaded. You could just look at the top 5 names there: Kupp, Jefferson, Adams, Chase, and Diggs. Keep going. Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Like this player pool is stone cold loaded at wide receiver. Stephon Diggs, 7,700, should be priced like Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams. He's having that type of season. His chemistry with Josh Allen is looking like it was 2 years ago. Got discounted after dropping a monster game on DraftKings because the salaries were already out. So between the game environment, the ownership is going to be all over Stephon Diggs. He should be, I think the highest owned player on the slate. If not, he's in the top 3, and he's just a phenomenal play. He's a cash game lock.
Yeah, I mean, Diggs has a 35% target share on the season, 4 touchdowns already, as you can see here. And yeah, he's just a very, very, very good play this week. And he's going to be the highest owned wide receiver on the slate by far. And you could definitely still play him in tournaments, even though that Josh Allen and Diggs stack is going to be very owned, especially in those large field lotteries. The ceiling and upside is just too crazy to not have at least a few lineups with these guys in it, and just get different elsewhere. You could fade a ton of chalk at the running back position and lower your cumulative ownership for sure. So Stephon Diggs, 7,700, great play this week. I mean, not much needs to be said. 53 total, et cetera, et cetera. I think the second best wide receiver play for cash is Amon-Ra St. Brown. I would rank him ahead of Tyreek Hill. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown is a target earner, point blank, period. He has a 33.5% target share as it stands right now. And Jared Goff just looks to this man, period. He just looks to him. He has upside, as we know and as we can see. And this game environment is the second best game on the slate.
Yep.
So Amon-Ra St. Brown, Stephon Diggs, I personally believe if you don't have these 2 players in your cash game lineup, send me a head-to-head.
There's the DK usernames right there on the screen. I would also take any head-to-heads if you're not planning on playing Diggs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. They're just clear-cut locks, I think, in cash this week. But in terms of, the salary savers, where are we going to be looking at wide receiver in cash? I don't know. Curtis Samuel is interesting to me. Jacoby Myers is projecting well. He made it back after missing 2 practices this week. Got a limited practice in on Friday. Seems like he's trending towards playing. Jacoby's projecting well. I mean, there are some other thin plays we can discuss, but in terms of this like mid 5K range, Jacoby, Curtis Samuel, anybody else that you might like, what do you think about cash for this price range?
Yeah, I think you could definitely go with Jacoby. Just a target earner. Obviously, the Patriots are a low pass volume offense, but they are 3-point dogs at home against a banged up Ravens secondary, and Mac Jones just kind of keys in on Jacoby Myers when they need to move the ball. So I think you get a nice floor out of Jacoby. He's never getting you 25 or 30 plus DraftKings points, but I think he gets you 14 to 17 points, and you'll take that at 5K. And I think Curtis Samuel is very similar at 5,100. He's projecting pretty solid right now, 20 targets through the first 2 weeks, 20 plus DraftKings points in both weeks. And Washington is 6.5 point dogs, like we've referenced before, 47.5 total. So this could be a pass friendly game script for the Washington Commanders. So I definitely don't mind him either. I think Devontae Smith is okay. If we go up a little bit, I think Brandon Cooks is going to come with ownership. Target share is one of the best in the NFL. Good matchup going up against this horrific Bears defense that we saw like Sammy Watkins cook them last week. Like the Bears are just a terrible team. So I don't mind him, and I think T. Higgins will probably have some ownership as well.
Yep, T. Higgins perpetually disrespected by DraftKings. They just won't raise his price. He is looking good, 6,100. You can always just bank on T. Higgins being sitting there right above 6K, which is always nice.
Every single week.
I just think because of, the fact that we're paying up at quarterback, we're paying up at least at 2 wide receiver spots. Like, I think it's hard to get up to the Brandon Cookses of the worlds, to get up to T Higgins this week if you're playing all those guys. It's tricky to make everything fit. So for that reason, personally, in the builds that I'm looking at, I'm trying to find, more of a stone punt at the wide receiver 3 position. So some names that I'm interested in, and these are guys that have kind of opened up late in the week. We didn't talk about this at all on Wednesday, so I want your thoughts on guys like Brashad Perryman at 3,900, Mac Hollins at 3,300. Is there anybody like that stands out to you? Romeo Doubs is getting some talk with all the injuries the Packers have right now. Christian Watson, unsure if he'll play. Randall Cobb, unsure if he'll play. I mean, who do you like at the low end of wide receiver this week?
I mean, none. Is that an acceptable answer?
Unless you got the DraftKings hack for extra salary, I don't know. I think we're gonna. Do you? Could you send that to me?
I don't have it. I don't have it on desktop. I gotta go on mobile and do the VPN and get all that and get the hacks loaded up on my phone.
Yeah.
Just so DraftKings doesn't catch on from the stream.
Standard. Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, if a lot of people's lineups are starting out like this, you could see right here, like, you're strapped.
Yeah.
You're strapped. So you probably are playing one of these guys. If I had to pick my favorite, if I had to pick my favorite cheap wide receiver, I think it probably would be Perryman. That's so disgusting. It probably would be Perryman, and then I would go with Romeo Doubs as my second and Matt Collins as my third if I had to rank them. But that's disgusting.
Really, really. That's kind of interesting. I don't know. Maybe I'm too bullish on Matt Collins this week. I mean, not that I'm bullish. Let me scale back the verbiage there. But I think out of these guys, he's probably the safest. I mean, Hunter Renfro's out, which consolidates the targets. I think Hollins will be the third target in this game behind Adams and Darren Waller. Even in week 1, when Hunter Renfro was fully healthy, he still played on 88% of snaps, 87% of snaps last week. Like, he's an every snap player essentially for this Raiders team playing against a Tennessee Titans team that looks completely lost. They have no identity. Their secondary is god awful. We just saw Diggs torch them. Hollins is good leverage in tournaments at an affordable price off of Adams. Josh Jacobs not fully healthy, 3,300. I think he is at least okay this week. Perryman, I would prefer, but if Julio is in, I just don't know what that does to the target distribution. I think that it would kind of like put Perryman and Scotty Miller in like a split role, sort of. Cole Beasley got activated. Can't imagine he plays much, but I don't know. I feel like the Bucs wide receiver corp is just like very messy right now.
Yeah, the Bucs definitely is. They elevated Cole Beasley, so I think we'll probably see, if Julio's healthy, Julio, Russell Gage, and Brashad Perryman as the 3 wide receiver set, and then obviously they'll mix in like Scotty Miller and Cole Beasley. Matt Collins, I don't mind. I think that his playing time will increase, especially in 2 wide receiver sets with Hunter Renfro being out. But I think the person who gets the biggest role change is Keelan Cole. I think Keelan Cole becomes the slot wide receiver, Hunter Renfro replacement at 3K. Obviously, you cannot play Keelan Cole, but I think he is the player who gets the biggest role change. If we're just focusing on that, Hollins is okay, but I mean, it's just Devontae Adams should see 15 targets again, is what I would expect in this game, especially after last week. He probably went to Derek Carr after the game, driving home or whatever, because they are best friends, and he's probably like, yo, bro, that's unacceptable.
Yeah. I mean, like on some man-to-man shit, like, bro, you can't be doing that. I need at least 10 plus per week. And I'm sure Derek Carr was, listening as he should in that spot.
And the Titans do have a ton of injuries on the defensive side of the ball as well. So Devontae Adams at the top of the pool definitely looks like a very good tournament pivot. But in terms of cash, I think it's tough. I think you are going to have to make a play that is going to make you throw up in your mouth a little bit, whether that be Romeo Doubs, Rashad Perryman, Matt Collins, one of these guys. I don't really have a solidified opinion on which one I'm going to play as it stands, but you are going to have to play one or two of these guys if you want to put out a cash lineup that has all of these guys in it.
Yep. And again, like if you're looking at Perryman versus Mac Hollins, I don't think, there's a $600 difference between those two. And I don't think that the downgrade from Perryman to Hollins equates to the downgrade from Allen to Hurts. And that's just kind of one of the things that I'm thinking about on this slate personally.
Yeah. I mean, something like this with a defense, I mean, you're going to have to play like a Mac Hollins. Like this is probably going to be a very popular cash game build. So you got a little bit more if you spend down, but this is the build right here, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yep. That's a 3v3 away from what I have. So
yeah, I mean, well then your 3v3 is just wrong, so you should change it.
I mean, Allen, Curtis is a better play than Myers, and there you go.
I mean, imagine playing Josh Allen over Jalen Hurts in cash. Like,
hey, you know what my DK username is. You could send that head to head too. Anybody could get the smoke. I don't give a fuck who it is. Your face could be right below mine on a stream. You could still get the smoke.
Yeah, you definitely do not want that. That's for sure. All right, who's your favorite tournament play at wide receiver?
Hard not to go with Jamar Chase in this spot, to be honest with you. Like everything is really setting up well for this Bengals team. I don't want to understate the struggles that we've seen on their offense. Like they are legitimate. This team is suffering through a Super Bowl hangover right now. The O-line is atrocious, but if there is ever a get right spot, it's definitely against a Jets team. Small sample sizes with these, defensive numbers. So take it with a grain of salt, but the Jets are, bottom 8 in terms of pressure rate and sack rate. They have the 32nd DVOA pass defense. So this just sets up awesomely for the Bengals to get right and be able to connect on some big plays that this offense has frankly been missing. And then from a DFS theory perspective, Jamar Chase is going to be, somewhere between 2 and 4% owned, whereas T. Higgins is going to be secondary chalk on the slate. Joe Mixon is going to be secondary chalk on the slate. So you're getting double leverage there. It's a monster, spot, and nobody's going to play him this week because everybody would rather play Diggs, Tyreek, Adams, and Jefferson. So,
yeah, I definitely think Jamar Chase is a very solid tournament play. Obviously, he's not going to project as well as Diggs, Tyreek, Amon-Ra, and he is going to be like 1% owned in these large field tournaments. So I really only would play him if I'm stacking him with Joe Burrow and just running that double stack with T. Higgins as well, and just betting on the Bengals offense, bouncing back after 2 horrific games to start the season. And we obviously know the upside that Jamar Chase possesses on a weekly basis. Like his ceiling is just as high as any of these other top wide receivers. So I definitely do not mind that. My guy that we talked about on the pod was Mike Williams, but it looks like Justin Herbert is going to miss. And if he doesn't miss, I still want no parts of that Chargers offense with Justin Herbert being relatively banged up right now. Like this dude could barely even walk after that game.
Dude, he's gonna get the same shot that they had to give Tyrod Taylor that punctured his lung. This doctor's getting sued by Tyrod
that
right
doctor
now.
is not on the team.
Do you know that for sure?
Just the guess, bro. They fired that man. They fired that man right after that shit happened. 100%.
They fired him. They gave him a promotion. They got Tyrod off the field and put Justin Herbert as the starting quarterback. That man's like he's the assistant GM, I think.
He's the fucking savior of the Chargers franchise.
Yeah, that man got a promotion. But I mean, if I'm Justin Herbert looking at that dude with the syringe, I'm feeling nervous. So I don't know about that Mike Williams play this week, to be honest with
that dude, he's not on the team, dude. He's been gone. He's fired. 1,000,000% he's gone.
I hope so for all my Justin Herbert shares in best ball.
But I mean, like Gabe Davis, right?
You don't gotta tell me twice about playing Gabe Davis. He said he's 100%. Gabe Davis 6,300. Nobody's gonna play this dude, and he's the easiest double stack partner with Josh Allen, because like right off rip, like you need to find ways to get different in a Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs stack. Like you absolutely have to. And Gabe Davis is clear cut. You get your correlation with Josh Allen, you get your correlation with this game going nuclear, and you have one of the highest upside wide receivers out there. Dude dropped 50 on DraftKings in the playoffs last year. Come on.
I mean, would you be surprised if the winning Millie Makers stack is something like Josh Allen, Diggs, Gabe Davis with a Dolphins bring back?
Absolutely not. I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Like, if that happens, just come back to this stream an hour and 1 minute in. Like, that's realistically, like, that's the stack that has the highest chance of banking tournaments this week, in my opinion.
And it's also within Josh Allen's range of outcomes to have monster games without Steph Diggs, which is like very important to recognize, I think, for like the theory of this slate. Because it's hard if you're playing Josh Allen, the highest priced quarterback on the slate, you're playing Diggs and Tyreek most likely, as your stuff like that, you're getting thin. So like you can get different with a Josh Allen stack and play like something like Gabe and Knox, I think, or I don't know, something like that along those lines, I think is viable with Josh Allen just to get different. But the double stack is great. You can plug Tyreek in there. It's just, it becomes a salary issue at that point. But I've tried to fit that. And you can make it fit if you punt.
For me, I guess, dang, you're not even getting like a crazy ownership discount on Jalen Waddle. I would have said Jalen Waddle at 6,800 if his ownership wasn't too out of control, but it looks like these Dolphins wide receivers are going to get steamed, but Tua isn't. So that's something to know. But yeah, a lot of these guys are going to be owned. I mean, you could lower your ownership by going like Dawson Knox at the tight end position, knock that out. But yeah, something like this is going to win the millie, and just figure out the rest, get low owned plays and lower your ownership. Play Rashad Penny, play a defense, play a pivot off Irv Smith, and you got a millie maker winning lineup right here.
Yeah, like the fun part about this build is that with such easy fades at chalk running back, like you can play a chalky Allen to Diggs stack, because if you're fading, Demont and Fournette in every single lineup, like you're going to be able to get different even around chalky stacks. Yo, what up, Pat?
I'm building the millie maker winning lineup right now on stream.
Dude, you're giving away this quality, high content information for free. That's crazy.
I'm for the people, Ben. I'm for the people.
Diggs low-key scares me with Davis back. The Finns wide receivers could be massive with all the injuries to the Bills secondary. Yeah, I mean, Tyreek and Waddle are both phenomenal plays. I think prefer Tyreek Hill. I mean, you guys got to remember, Tyreek Hill is the Buffalo Bills' daddy. Like, after what he did to them in that final game last season, this man, like, there's going to be some residual trauma when the Bills secondary, their backup secondary, is basically staring across the field and seeing Tyreek Hill lining up across for them once again. So
yeah. Shout out my boy Ryan in the chat. Yeah, no, just a ton of injuries. I mean, we already talked about it a ton. The Bills just have a ton of injuries in their secondary with, 2 all-pro safeties out and an all-pro cornerback out. Dane Jackson is also out. The Bills' defensive line should still eat against the Dolphins' offensive line, but I think that these wide receivers should be able to have their way, quite frankly. And if this total is hitting, I mean, one of Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill is going for 30+.
Just out of chill with the Bills slander, my bad, dude. I mean, I'm like low key, like almost a Bills fan at this point, but that's for a different time. Just out of curiosity, with this lineup you're building on screen, could you fit something like Swift and Thielen and still play any kind of tight end?
Bro, are you on drugs?
Oh yeah, that doesn't fit, does it? That was bad. That was bad math.
I mean,
I
Jesus.
wasn't looking at
That hide is killing your fucking brain cells, dog.
Dude, I wasn't reading the remaining salary. That's my bad. That is my
It's all right.
bad.
That's all the people get.
All right.
That's a milli maker winning lineup right there. But nonetheless, the wide receiver position is loaded. So do you have any other players that you like this week? I mean, Hollywood Brown at 6K I think is interesting. We talked about Brandon Cooks. I think Drake London and Tyler Lockett, if you think that game is going to go over, is interesting. Who else? Juju Smith-Schuster. I think you could stack him with Mahomes and Kelsey this week, and he's relatively cheap. So I don't mind him. Thoughts on A.J. Brown, Ben?
Yeah, I think A.J. Brown is a phenomenal play this week. Again, going into what we were talking about like playing into chalk, but figuring out ways that you can still do it. A.J. Brown's a phenomenal play. You can stack him with a chalky Jalen Hurts and then just fade Curtis Samuel as the bring back, and you're off to a monster start. You could play McLaurin or Logan Thomas is a great pivot. One of my favorite tight end pivots we'll get to in a minute off of Irv Smith. A.J. Brown is a standout play as well, and will completely go on under-owned because of, Diggs, Tyreek, Waddle, and Amon-Ra St. Brown all in that price range.
Yeah, I definitely don't mind A.J. Brown. Just all of these wide receivers have such high ceilings, I think that in tournaments, this is a week where you probably want to just fade the running back chalk. You want to get off Leonard Fournette and David Montgomery and Dameon Pierce or whomever else is chalk. I think you could still play these chalky stacks like the Bills stack, the Dolphins stack, and some of these other players, the Lions guys, Amon-Ra St. Brown, should be one of the highest owned players on the slate. I think you don't fade them. You don't fade the chalk wide receivers, but you just have to be conscious of of the other players that you're putting in your lineup and try and get different elsewhere. Running back, tight end, defense especially are just easy ways to lower your cumulative ownership. And I think that's how I'm going to build a lot of my lineups is just stacking these games up, maybe get a low owned piece in these games and just go super off the board at running back like a Rashad Penny, or if something else opens up like an Eno Benjamin or a Zamir White, potentially if Josh Jacobs ends up not playing, or Darrell Williams or something like that. Just get super crazy in tournaments and just I'm not fading these wide receivers. Like Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, they're too good of plays to not play them. And then I think this range right here, nobody's going to be in the Christian Kirk, Hollywood Brown, Thielen, Drake London. I think all of those guys are very good tournament plays.
Yeah, I got three names that I want to rattle off real quick at wide receiver, and then we can move on because the stream
Mooney?
is getting long. Absolutely not. And maybe I'm just hurt right now because
Where's Bob?
Yeah, I know if Bob is still in the chat, he's all in on Mooney, and I think theoretically it's good, but I'm just trying to live by like the math this week, and a lot of people get too into the math. They're writing complicated Python equations and getting into machine learning. Like there's one equation that you can always bank on, and it's trash plus trash doesn't equal treasure. And that's what this game is. It's a fucking whole bunch of trash, and I'm not looking for treasure in it. So I'm not playing Mooney. I'm not playing Montgomery or Pierce or Cooks. I'm Gucci. This has to be the Mooney week.
Hey, I'm already at that point. I might have a cup after this stream.
Yeah, swear to God.
I'm just kidding.
My three names. Let me shout out my three names in tournaments real quick. First is Adam Thielen, who you brought up for a second just now. 5,900. I think he's really good leverage off of Dalvin Cook and Irv Smith, who's going to be the chalkiest tight end on the slate, and even Justin Jefferson, who's going to come with middling ownership. He's still playing every single snap. He just hasn't got there, but 95% of snaps in week 1, 97% of snaps in week 2 for all the KJ Osborne hype doesn't seem to be really translating in any meaningful way for this Vikings offense. So, I mean, I think that, Thielen is clearly the type of player who can score 2 touchdowns in any given spot at home against this Detroit defense with, a slate high team total. It's definitely a Thielen type of game to play. In that same game, this is just a large field punt, but DJ Chark at 5,100 coming off of a 0-point game had the 8 targets in week 1. He has the deep down the field role, so he's going to be a field stretcher. Vikings secondary is slow as dirt. So this seems like a good spot where DJ Chark, maybe he's the one who goes off in this game. Not likely, but off of 8 targets, I'm not upset about DJ Chark if we can get that in a potential shootout for a Lions team putting up 35.5 points per game at 0 ownership. And lastly, Joey, Michael Pittman, who we mentioned a little bit earlier, I think is a great piece to bring off and maybe some, 2-player correlations if you're trying to get exposure to that Chiefs game. But we saw last week that this entire Colts passing attack is lost without Michael Pittman. They got shut out by the Jags. Michael Pittman is like the engine that makes this team run at 6,900, and nobody's going to play him just because of all of the other guys that we like. But he had 13 targets in week 1. He's healthy. He's good to go. Colts are going to be chasing points in what could be like a do or die matchup for them. I know it's early in the season, but like the track record of teams that start 0-3 or without a win through three weeks and going anywhere during the season basically doesn't exist. So this is a must-win game for them.
Same shit with 0-2.
Yeah, 0-2. But I think the math is different on that now because of the extra game, which is why it's like 0-3 is like the tipping point. But whatever. I mean, the point is that the Colts, from their perspective, this is a must-win game for them, and they're not going to fuck around. Michael Pittman's going to be a huge part of their attack this week.
Yeah, I mean, high totaled game, in a dome, get their best player, or their best pass catcher, I should say, not best player, back on offense. And 6,900, he's just in that range of other, elite plays this week. Nobody's going to play him. So Patrick Mahomes, Michael Pittman, Travis Kelce, Juju Smith-Schuster stack, make the rest fit.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's talk tight end. Joey, Irv Smith Jr., 3,100 is going to be the chalk this week. Coming off of the week 1 dud, just got missed in the DraftKings pricing because it was already out by the time he had his 14 spot on Monday Night Football. But we saw the role look pretty good. And, he had 8 targets in a game where he still was not playing full time. So there's room for him to get healthier, to get on the field more. And we've already talked about how great the spot is for the Vikings offense in general. In cash, you're getting just a good player with a good role in a good situation. You don't need to overthink it. Irv Smith is, as far as I'm concerned, the only tight end that I'm even considering in cash right now.
Yeah, I mean, you said it all, in my opinion. He played 56% of the snaps in week 2. I did note in my video, which is also on this feed, that just notoriously with how the Eagles play defenses, they don't really care about like their linebacker position and like covering the middle of the field. And this has been noted like over the last few seasons. And I know they drafted Nakobe Dean or whatever, but it was obviously apparent like how they play helps the tight end. So I think Irv Smith chalk could definitely be an overreaction for sure. I think that the price is still too cheap, and in cash you are playing Irv Smith, but I think he's an easy fade in tournaments if we're overreacting to just a 1 week sample size, and he's not even a full-time player at this point. Like he's pretty much splitting snaps with Johnny Munt.
Yeah.
So you play him in cash and you don't play him at all in tournaments is how I'm playing it.
Yeah, that seems pretty on the nose to me. But what else are you thinking at tight end then? Because we're gonna, obviously like the high ceiling plays are interesting. Travis Kelce's in a GOAT spot, but 7,900 is disgusting to try and stomach on a slate like this when we need to save salary, and tight end is like the go-to salary saving position. I'm personally not going to be in on Mark Andrews this week. I think that like if you're paying up that high, I would just much rather have Kelce, and I would find the 1,000 to do it. So I'm pretty much skipping the Andrews, Waller, Pitts range, I think.
No interest in Kyle Pitts. Like he's got to hit one game, right? There's one game he's going to smash, it's this game.
Like if you liked what we said about Rashad Penny and you want to try and play a Rashad Penny, Kyle Pitts 2-play correlation, I don't hate it. Okay. I think it's like, I could see why you would do it. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but I think that, largely I'm going to be looking at tight ends 4K and below, 4,100 and below, I should say. I think Dawson Knox is interesting. He hasn't done much this season, but he's still got a really good average depth of target for a tight end. So he's getting like downfield looks. And we know that he's a threat to score 2 touchdowns at any given point being on this Bills offense. He's not going to come with any ownership because, the box score is so unimpressive to start the year. So, I think Dawson Knox is certainly interesting if you're trying to get low owned pieces of this Bills offense. And other than that, like Logan Thomas, Juwan Johnson, I don't know if any of these guys are, your plays. How do you feel about the tight end position other than Irv for tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not playing Irv in tournaments, so definitely going to be playing guys like Logan Thomas, Tyler Higbee, who Ryan said in the chat, although he is going to be one of the highest owned tight ends on the slate, so I don't necessarily love that, but Tyler Higbee has, 20 targets. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not getting much, but you are getting targets out of Tyler Higbee to start the season.
Same with Zach Ertz in that same game.
Yep, Zach Ertz, 4,600. You're going to get targets. But I think it's hard to get in that range, especially if you're still playing the high-priced wide receivers. I don't mind Kyle Pitts just taking another shot on him, but yeah, I think it's just going to be in the range of, Juwan Johnson-ish, taking shots on these guys and hoping for the best is how I'm going to play it personally. Other than that, at tight end position, just in general, I really just like to play the tight end position as a correlated piece, whether that be a bring back or part of my stack is really how I like to attack it. So, Dawson Knox, I'm probably playing Josh Allen with him. If I'm playing Kyle Pitts, I want that correlated piece with Rashad Penny. That's how I attack this position in tournaments specifically.
Yeah, for sure. I also just want to, re-highlight. We both said Logan Thomas, but I want to re-highlight him as my absolute favorite at the position because the price is right for him, 3,500. Everything that you just said about the Eagles and the way that they, play with their linebackers, that applies, as a plus for Logan Thomas this week. You're only paying 400 more to get up to him off of Irv Smith, and you're getting like a 5x ownership discount. So, from that alone, I think he's a great play. And then, coming into last week, Logan Thomas was only playing 62% of snaps in week 1, 73% last week. So his role is again increasing as he rehabs the injury that he suffered at the end of last year with the ACL. So, fully healthy, great matchup, good game environment, direct leverage off of Curtis Samuel. I mean, Logan Thomas, he scores you a touchdown in this spot. You're absolutely sailing to the money.
Yeah, and I mean, I literally talked about it with Irv Smith against the Eagles and how they want to play, and he's playing the Eagles.
Yep.
A team that notoriously gets beat over the middle of the field and beat by tight ends.
Yep.
So I think he is a pretty good tournament play this week, and he's a nice pivot off of Irv Smith chalk, and you're going to get him at what? Let's look at this. A fifth of the ownership.
Yep.
So Logan Thomas at the tight end position. But yeah, we've been talking way too long about tight end. Just use it as a correlated piece. That's it. That's how you should be playing it. Defense, Panthers. That's it.
Think so? I think that there are 2 defenses that I like more than them in this cheap range.
I mean, price included. I mean, it depends on the Herbert situation.
Yep.
I would have interest in the Jags at 2,300, save 300 off that if Herbert is out. If he isn't, I have no interest in the Jags. Other than that, I think the Panthers are the best at home against a banged up Jameis Winston or Andy Dalton against a Saints team that just has struggled to start the year. I guess.
Bop says Lions D. Like I mean, the Lions are god awful, but they should see a lot of pass attempts in this spot, like they produced last week.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking yourself into Lions D just because you have to play them in your Josh Allen cash game lineup. Let's put it out there. You have them in that.
I don't.
That's the only reason. What are you talking about? They were in the lineup that you sent earlier. Unless you changed it.
No, they definitely weren't in the lineup. You can check your Discord DMs again, not on fucking stream. Please, God, don't open that on stream.
Nah, join the Discord though.
Yeah, join the Discord. Join the Discord.
I
But yes,
won't leak DMs.
thank
I'm
you.
not stupid.
Yes. I like the Jags even if Justin plays because I don't think he'll be anywhere near 100%. And the Jags actually have a lot of playmakers on defense. So I think that's pretty good too. But the defense that I do currently have in my cash shell is the Jets at 2,400. Now, again, this
that's
is
even worse.
Is it? They're at home against one of the absolute worst offensive lines in the league. And like, while I said that I believe that, the Bengals can have their, breakout blow up game in this spot, it's also, within the range of outcomes that they don't. And that's the kind of variance that I'm willing to embrace. Playing a team with talented pass rushers that haven't been getting there yet, but they're at home coming off of an electric win. I think this Jets home stadium is going to be popping after that monster game last week. And the Bengals offensive line just is god awful. So 2,400, I think you could play them. I think you could play Jags, and I think you can play Texans also 2,600 against Justin Fields and this terrible Bears offense.
Yeah, I think that the Panthers and Texans are definitely a tier above the Jets for me. And I definitely would prefer to just find the 200 to get up to them. Obviously, if you're comfortable with the rest of your lineup, the Jets is whatever. But I personally believe the Panthers are going to be the highest owned defense on the slate.
Yep.
And I think that just from a projection standpoint and just the overall game environment, I definitely think Texans are the cash game defense. And then in tournaments, you just don't play the chalk. So don't play the Panthers. Don't play the Texans defense in tournaments. Maybe get up to the Eagles against Carson Wentz. Maybe get up to the Packers against Tom Brady with no weapons. Maybe get up to the Bucks against Aaron Rodgers with no weapons. Something like that is what I like for tournaments.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I'm fine just punting it off with these guys. I also think, if we get like a Schefter bomb about Justin Herbert in the next hour or two, I think Jags might be the chalkiest defense on the slate.
Yeah, no, for sure. So that's just definitely news to monitor. But I personally think he has a chance, but he should be out. So
yeah. So I think we're looking at Jets, Panthers and potentially Jags for cash. And other than that, just check your local ownership projections and steer clear of them for defense.
Yeah, for sure. Fuck. What am I doing? All right. Been streaming for an hour and 23 minutes. We've talked about everything. Who's winning $1 million this week on DraftKings, Ben? What stack? I want 4 players. I want a double and a bring back.
You want a double and a bring back.
That's what the people want. They want to know how to win $1 million. They don't care about cash games. Okay. They don't care about grinding for an 8% ROI. They care about winning 50K to $1 million. How are you doing that this week? How are you banking the tournaments that you're playing?
All right. I won't give you a double because it's a single stack that's going to win it. All right.
Single this week.
It's going to be one that our chat brought up and one that I like quite a bit with some pieces for us. It's going to be Jalen Hurts to AJ Brown with the Logan Thomas bring back as positional leverage off of Irv Smith and direct leverage off of Curtis Samuel. And then I'm going to take it a step further and I'm going to give you the 2-piece correlation that you need to truly separate. You're going to start off with Hurts and AJ Brown, Logan Thomas at tight end, then you're plugging in DeAndre Swift and you're playing Adam Thielen as your Vikings corollary piece. And then you're filling out the rest of your lineup however you want because you're already super contrarian. You can bang some high-priced wide receivers in there. Sales of the fucking money.
That's how you're winning your tournaments. That's how you win in the, what do you play? The $100 spy.
I play the $100 spy. I play all sorts of shit. I switch it up every week, but I'm playing the small field spy this week, 166 field, trying to just
grind a bankroll.
That's
how you should be playing tournaments. Playing those small fields, grind your ROI up, grind your bankroll up, take a shot here and there.
Make back some of that money I lost in week 1.
Good bankroll management. That's what the people tune in for. Bankroll management advice.
Yep. That's
All right.
facts.
Yeah, I already said one of my plays that I think is going to win somebody a milli. That's Rashad Penny. I stand by that. Yeah, you could definitely correlate Penny with Kyle Pitts. It's a nice low correlation right there. I think that my favorite double stack. My favorite double is definitely the Chiefs. If we're talking about a low-owned double,
Mm-hmm.
is Mahomes, Juju, and shit. You could even go like MVS or something like that. Maybe get off Kelsey because you have to compare Kelsey to the wide receivers that he's priced around, and I'm just not playing Kelsey over, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, um, you know, Tyreek Hill, etc., Stephon Diggs. If I'm trying to bank a million, this is just not happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely love the Chiefs double at low ownership. That's my stack that I think wins a milli.
You said Juju and Kelsey?
If I'm playing Kelsey, yeah, I'm playing Juju, Kelsey, Patrick Mahomes, and figuring the rest out.
You're not trying to fuck around with a little MVS at 4,700?
I mean, you could definitely go Juju and MVS. I think that is okay, but I think if Mahomes is hitting his ceiling, what's the likelihood that Travis Kelce isn't hitting his? Most of Mahomes' ceiling games are coming with Travis Kelce having ceiling games, especially now without Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if Mahomes is winning you a tournament, Kelsey has 100 and at least a touchdown. And
if you need Kelce, you need Mahomes, right?
Right.
So,
well, even less so, though, right? Because
I think if Kelce wins you a tournament, you 100% need Mahomes because Kelce is not getting there without a Mahomes blow-up game. But Mahomes could definitely Mahomes can definitely win you a tournament without you needing Kelce at cost. Is how I think of it.
That's fair. But Mahomes can have like a great game and still not match Allen, right? Or Hurts, theoretically, I think.
I mean, Mahomes has just as high of a ceiling as Josh Allen. So
it's fair. It's fair. It's quite fair. All right, guys, we have been live for 128 minutes. We'll keep it up for the last two, close it out at 1:30 even. If anybody has any questions, DFS questions, season-long questions, life questions, we're fully equipped to handle them all.
Yeah, I mean, your math is just off today. This dude's at 128 minutes. We've been live for like 90.
An hour and 28 minutes, dog. I misread the digits, dog. It's been a long day. It's been a long day.
Uh-huh. It's been a long day in the life of Benny H from New York.
Should be a struggle sometimes, man,
No, I feel that. I'll cook both of you on the court, no lie.
I mean, that's just cap.
He's a sharpshooter.
I mean, I got the nicest shot in Rochester, New York.
Ben has the worst shot of all time.
It's ugly, but it goes in. I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
Bob. Shout out Bob. All right. Anybody have any other DFS questions or anything? No?
No, is that...
All right. Well, I mean, we'll end at an hour and a half, so 40 seconds.
40
Shout out to everybody still watching. We appreciate all of you.
Yep. Make sure you guys check out any of the other content we do on YouTube. Have Joey's cash game video live on the channel. My top 5 tournament plays live on the channel. We do this Saturday night live stream every single week. Make sure you guys check this out every week. Make it part of your rotation. We'll be back on Monday with our recap of how things go. I think we're going to be in good spirits because we're going to have banked something.
Yeah. I mean, if I bank a milli, I'm not returning. So there's that.
There's that.
GG's.
We'll talk to you guys on Monday.